Project Search.
Hey y'all, it's Danny again. Today I'm going to be talking to you about another important subject, and that is references.
References.
The presentation will give you a definition of what we mean by references as related to the workplace, and at the end, you'll be issued a challenge. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you handle that challenge. Project Search UTMC Remote Learning References 101. What does the word references mean? The word references has several definitions. However, during Project Search, we focus on just one, and that is the people who can talk about your work experience, people who know the types of work you've done before and can talk about that, people who know your work habits, like do you get to work on time? Do you have a nice attitude? Do you get your work done? People who know your character. Do you have a good attitude? Are you honest and trustworthy? And people who know what specific skills you have and can talk about those. But why are references important? Well, during the hiring process, typically after a job interview and before making you a job offer, a potential employer will contact the people you used as references and ask them questions about you. They will use the information your references provide as a way to help determine whether to offer you the job you have applied for. Be very careful then about the people you choose as your references. They'll play a big part in whether or not you're offered that job you want. Who should your references be? Well, there are a couple of different categories. Let's start with professional and educational. When a potential employer asks for professional references, people you have known through work and/or educational experiences can be used. So former managers, coworkers can be used. And then if you haven't had a paid job before, you can think about any volunteer work you've performed, high school on-site vocational education you participated in, and any other hands-on vocational training you've had. You can use the supervisors and instructors and job coaches from those experiences as references as well. Because you're in Project Search, that means you could use your job coach or your Project Search instructor. You could use coworkers you've worked with in your department assignments, and you could even use the supervisors and managers in those departments as references. In addition to those professional and/or educational references, some employers are going to ask for a separate list of references that they'll call personal references. And when they ask for those, you'll need to use people you know outside of work and/or education. There are many possibilities that fall into this category. Just a few examples are a neighbor or friend of the family you've helped out or worked on a project with. In the picture, you see someone helping rake leaves. Maybe you've done this for a neighbor or various other things that we do to be good neighbors. And if you have a nice rapport with your neighbor, you could use them as a personal reference. You could use an acquaintance from your faith organization you performed charitable work with. In the picture, you see someone delivering a meal to someone who's homebound, which is something that your faith organization might do, and maybe you've taken part in that type of thing. If you have, or done something that's kind of like that, you could use one of the people you worked with that on as a reference. You could use a fellow member of a club or community organization. In the picture here, you see someone bowling as part of a bowling team. If you're a member of a team, could be bowling, could be another sport, or if you're in a club or organization that does community services, you could use someone who knows you from that organization or sports team as one of your personal references. Who should your references not be? Do not use members of your immediate family as references for employers. Employers want to gain insight about you from people who have an objective point of view. Your immediate family, it is probably safe to say, will be biased in your favor when they're asked to describe your character. If you try to rely on family members as references, employers will not be impressed by what they will see as a lack of professionalism, and they might even think you're trying to hide something. In other words, it's wonderful to have you have a great family and a loving family, supportive family, and it's a wonderful thing to have. But you really can't use any of those folks as references for employers. It is not viewed as very professional, and furthermore, the employer really wants to know from someone who can be more objective, meaning someone who doesn't have that type of relationship with you, where they're going to be much more likely to want to defend you and say positive things about you. They want to hear from people who don't have that close link with you. So a family member is not going to work as a reference. Also, do not list a person you don't get along with or have had conflicts with in the past as a reference for an employer. We've all got them, those people in our lives who we just haven't gotten along with. We may even have gotten in bad arguments with them and other types of conflicts. Remember that potential employers will contact the people you have listed as references to get information about you to determine whether or not to offer you a job. Make sure the people they contact are people who will say positive things about you. Definitely avoid any of those people who you didn't get along with in the past. You want to choose people who you get along really well with and who you really feel are going to say very positive things about you. So here's the challenge for you today. Before we get together to discuss this material, try to think of at least 2 people you could use as references for potential employers. You can do it. I know you can fulfill the challenge that I laid out there in the presentation. If you need to go back and rewatch the video or parts of it to remember what the little rules were about who to choose as a reference, that might help you. I also would advise talking to a family member or friend who might be able to help you figure out a couple of people you can use as references. That's totally fine to do. And I look forward to hearing what you've come up with when we get together.
$2.